Hello, my friend. Alicia Lynn Diaz here, transformational healer and creator of the Enlightened Body System. Welcome to this very special episode of Healing Sexual Shame. In this interview, my dear friend Aaron Moon Cantwell got to share with us some of his story and deep healing, the deep men's work, the inner work that he does with men, healing the masculine feminine balance within him, as well as how deeply he's dove into Taoism, Tantric Buddhism, yoga to create deep body transformation and healing from really a condition that most men brings up a lot of shame. So we went very vulnerable and very deep into just sharing a lot of things that can help you as well on your journey. And this interview will help you have a healthier relationship to your body, release the shame from your healing path, whatever your unique healing path may be. It will give you a healthy perspective on failure and help you feel less isolated wherever you are in your healing journey, especially if it is a journey of sexual healing. We'll give you practices, specific self-awareness practices, and just inner guidance for receiving emotional support and really getting out of the hole of feeling wounded, shameful, or unsafe in the world. So enjoy this episode. I'm really happy you're here. And without further ado, here's my interview with Aaron Moon. Hello and welcome, everyone. So happy to have you here today. I have a very special guest, my friend Aaron Moon. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you so much. Very grateful to be here.
So Aaron and I have had some great conversations around healing and some really deep and vulnerable healing conversations. And he's been on a path of reclaiming his healthy masculinity, balancing the masculine feminine aspects within himself. And he was faced with a very significant health challenge that I think most men would not be comfortable talking about. And I was so moved by my conversation with him. And I can relate very deeply myself, having done a lot of healing for my womb and my femininity, and also integrating the healthy feminine and masculine aspects of me. And so I found his story to be one of great inspiration. And I really wanted to bring it to you. So Aaron, I'm so happy to have you here. And I'd love to, kind of just start wherever you feel, you want to start and share your story of healing, of inspiration, of what kind of got you down this path of healing these aspects of yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for that. I'm so happy that you've been inspired by these stories. And the more I share about myself, my wounding and my journey through health, I find that's happening. People want to know more. So thanks for that opportunity. It was really just out of necessity. I wasn't born saying, I want to do work in the masculine with, men's work. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that this would be my path. And something that really fires me up, actually, and motivates me to move is my heavy teaching moments that someone calls failures, right? Mm-hmm. When, like bad relationships end, what is it? How can I improve that? How can I not go through that again? Or, when someone I really admire and look up to has shown me, behavior or ways of being that are painful to receive and hurtful, right, and harmful. Well, what is it? What are they missing? This is my teacher who's behaving this way, and this has happened before. So these things really motivate me almost it feels necessary for me to know more about how we can really improve and what we might be missing, as far as walking the talk goes, right? And I really hope and pray to be a person that can, walk my talk. And so out of necessity, through injury and through failure, that's really how come I have decided to dedicate decades of my life to learning more about the healing path.
Mm-hmm. And I love how you reframed what most of us could hear as failure, or most people would label as failure, because there's a tendency to kind of go into like shame or hiding whenever we perceive ourselves to be failing at something. Right. And so I just love how, and came so naturally in your words, that I just had to like pull it out for all of us listening.
Yeah.
You called it heavy teaching moments. And so I'm curious for you, like in your path, in your story, what was this heavy teaching moment? Or one of the ways I reframe it too is that this opportunity, right? What was the opportunity or the challenge, presented? Another way that I kind of reframe failure is just like, okay, well, there's like an inherent challenge there. And challenge is something that we rise up to rather than cower away from.
Mm.
And your story to me was one that was inherently like you kept rising to the occasion to meet it. So yeah, what was this teaching moment for you? What was a pivotal moment on this healing path?
So there were a couple of pivotal moments that drove me beyond where I was. Okay. And um, at times, for example, when I was a chef, okay, I first started as a technical college student, learning the fundamentals of bakery and pastry and cuisine, and working at the time. I think I was 21, working in a grocery store, supermarket, bakery, working overnights, right? And like not really feeling like this was the lifestyle that I had wanted to sign up for. So that I became so uncomfortable within my own life, so irritated and agitated, and I didn't have anybody to blame, right? There was nobody who could really help me with that at that
Mm-hmm.
moment. And I had an opportunity to go to Paris and learn the haute cuisine, like learn from the masters of that craft. When that opportunity presented itself, I just said yes. Okay, like here's something, here's a way forward. And I was scared. I didn't know a word of French, right? But from the time I sent my inquiry, 2 weeks, right, to the time I was on a plane leaving to stay and learn. And the same thing, something similar happened, uh, albeit a bit more violently for me, uh, as far as guiding me to do deeper work with men and deeper spiritual work and personal development work. And that was a physical injury that I had sustained during lovemaking with my partner. It was one of the most romantic times of my life, romantic days of my life. And in this moment, I was irritated. I realized that I didn't think that I want to be with this person. Here we are, right? Totally naked and raw with each other, and I am up here checked out, way somewhere else. And I don't know if it was because of my lack of presence. However, for sure that played a role, being totally somewhere else. And in that moment of me realizing that I was somewhere else, I sustained a physical injury to my sex anatomy, right? My main suspensory ligament was torn away in a snap. It kind of buckled under the pressure, right, of our lovemaking. And this was literally torn away from me in an instant. Uh, and it was maybe 8 years of suffering through this injury, not knowing who I could talk to, not really wanting to speak about it, um, trying, like the little blue pills, or different devices and techniques, from friends who were just as clueless about sex and healing as I was. Trying little things in yoga and acupuncture, but largely due to almost a decade of just pure frustration of trying to prove myself, prove my worth, and get the comfort and love that I was seeking from within, from someone else, trying to get from my relationships, decided to just, like, I need to pause. I need to move forward. And when I did, there's that kind of classic cliche that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And for sure, that's, when I just take a step back and I say, I need something different, and I'm open to receiving this, the opportunity appeared to learn these deeper sexual mastery techniques from schools of Tantric Buddhism and Taoism. And of course, schools of yoga as well. But largely the two schools that I just mentioned, I dedicated my life to. And I experienced a legitimate physical healing and rewiring of my physical anatomy, my central nervous system. And from there, I just decided to quietly dedicate my life to those practices and to teaching them.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And like, no matter, like, all of us can relate so deeply to that level of, even if no one has sustained the exact injury, right? We can all relate to these deep injuries or illnesses that create the self-doubt, that create the second guessing our own value and worth, and then create that dynamic, right, of seeking that love and acceptance outside of ourselves. And just to share vulnerably into this space myself, because I feel like your story really is asking that. Like, I'm not just here as someone interviewing you in front of this beautiful community that we have, all of you listening, but I'm someone who went down that shame path for many, many decades as well, with my own sexual healing and having a lot of repressed sexual trauma from when I was a little girl, not realizing what had happened to me, thinking that I was crazy, not worthy of love, not understanding why I would be in romantic encounters with like a partner, and my whole nervous system would shut down, and I would like go into this, what I now know to be a triggered response that was just ingrained, this imprint that was ingrained, that was like fearful, and felt for so many years that I had no one to talk to about it, was ashamed to talk about it. Like, the first friend, one of my best friends, who was a guy friend of mine many years ago, actually also went through a lot of sexual wounding in his childhood and traumas. And we went to like a healing event together, and we were just platonic friends, which is why I think it was so safe. And he like looked at me and was like, I know, I see you. Like, did something happen? And I was just screaming, crying, and I did not know, but like he saw me in that moment, and it was safe, and I didn't have to talk about it, because eventually I did. He was the first person I confided in, of the things that I had started wondering about, the things that were happening. But this is this safe space to be able to talk about these things is so important. Creating that safety inside of ourselves to recognize, and for all of you listening, to recognize that there's nothing shameful about any healing crisis that you're finding yourself in. And like, I get that from you, Aaron, just in hearing the way that you talk about your story,
Right. Hearing you say that the shame path, and there's that concept of like attracts like, and also opposites attract, something that I've been getting a lot lately from different teachers. That's, feeling shameful and wounded for sure helped guide me to connect with people at that level of my shame and my fear, right? That kind of state of trauma, and that kind of like, I'm hurt inside, regardless of how I could present myself. And that's also what helped me to peek open the curtains, right, a little bit is that feedback that I would get from my partners, that kind of like, what's wrong with you? Or like, what do you need? And then so many times, I don't know, like, what do I, what do I need myself? So I really had to find that. I really had to be open to finding that. And walking from a path of shame to a path of healing, I feel is probably a necessary step for most of us who deal with disease, because when we present how we're really feeling to someone who might not be able to hear it, that's going to be scary.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, almost everyone on this planet, is not taught how to sit with someone with their trauma or with their pain or even with basic emotions.
Yeah.
It freaks people out. And that's really where that comes from, that like, ooh, I don't want that. You're like, put that away. That fear response can help us stay in shame or fear ourselves, right? Kind of meet the person that we want to confide in at the level of their reaction also, or their capacity, or perhaps, in my case, or hopefully anybody who might be going through something like this listening, to be able to just be open to the possibility that there are or is someone in their lives right now who is able to kind of help hold them to express what's really going on, how we really feel.
That's such a great reminder, because when we're in that shame spiral, feeling disconnected, alone, we keep kind of hitting against these mirrors of manifesting the same thing we're feeling inside, right? Like we feel helpless, so the others around us feel helpless to help us, not being able to express our needs, not even being able to know what our needs are. One of the um, one of the indicators of trauma is like just kind of that instant trigger response, like I was mentioning I went through, but it's like a fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm.
And like that freeze response was one of my go-tos. I would just numb out. I would have no idea. I was disconnected. So like that those responses of the nervous system, like, of course, make us feel so isolated and alone. Um,
Mm.
and I agree. We tend to, when there's emotion in our society, like people tend to like laugh. They laugh because they're nervous, or they tend to try to change the subject or go into solution mode.
Mm.
So these are all things that actually have us feel, when we're going through a real emotion, have us feel like it's not safe. It's not safe to share. Then they label themselves. I make other people uncomfortable with my emotion. Therefore, my emotion is not safe. It's something I should hide. And then I feel more and more and more disconnected.
Mm.
So thank you for speaking into that, and to offer like that there's someone in your life right now, those of you listening, that is able to hold you and listen. Or if there isn't someone immediately right away, like if you know that that's possible, that person will come. So Erin, for you, what was that kind of turning point? How did you um, allow yourself to start to heal that? How did you deal with the emotional isolation, or the feelings of shame, and how did you start like really bridging into that safe space for healing and processing?
Wow. Yeah. The process started with me trying to have sex as much as possible with whomever I felt, uh, not necessarily a player going out there and targeting women to prove myself, but being open, keeping my radar available to say, who is willing to go there with me, because I need this. I don't have it right now. I need to fix this.
Mm.
Right? And so surrogate, projecting a surrogate savior, I guess you could say, onto women in general, who were open to giving me that. And that didn't really work. I mean, it worked in a way that caused more frustration and pain in my life, because eventually I would be discovered, right, for what was really going on anyway. Like, you can't be naked and alone with someone, right, and miss, like a failure of anatomy, right? And especially with a man, it's fairly obvious, right? So attempting to do that time and time again, like I said, it was, I was 26 when this happened. Excuse me, almost 26, not quite 26 when I had this injury. And that I jokingly call it my Dennis Rodman moment, because that man has a particularly wild story of sexual escapades that injured him multiple times, and he had to undergo surgery and things like this. But that worked to cause more frustration and pain. And it took almost a decade for me to just sit back and realize, like, this really is not working. It really isn't working. So what could possibly be my next step? And I had the audacity, I would say, to ask myself to just sit with myself and stop trying to do anything, and just ask myself, what is it that I need? And the voice that would come to me would say, just stop, just stop trying to fix this thing. Stop trying to fix this thing. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Just how can I stop? Like, it has to be fixed. And this would happen for weeks on end, right? And so I stopped. And there was a teacher of mine who I ended up apprenticing for 4 years under, who echoed my suggestion that, maybe you just need to stop and take a celibacy concentration. And that was almost hearing like maybe you should be vegetarian for the first time, like, you gotta be kidding me. You're like, not do this? And I couldn't deny it because I had already heard that from within myself, And I knew that someone else wasn't going to fix it for me. So here this man suggesting that I stop and commit to a celibacy concentration for an undetermined amount of time. And I started with 1 year, which was the longest that I could have ever imagined from the time when I was probably 17 or 18, right? When I first became sexually active. And that helped me to be able to receive the actual teachings and practices that I needed to help me heal this wound, right? And that's something that we like the phone. Like I don't know the answer to something, boom, I can get the phone and boot it and type it in, and boom, like Google or whoever like has the answer for me right away.
It's so true.
It's kind of like built in, right? Like something bad happens, like, oh God, that sucks. How do I get out of it? How do I get out of it? Get me out of this. Get me out of this. And it's like the big kind of paradox or shift in mind I feel that's necessary for so many of us is to move from how do I get out of this to how can I go deeper into this and discover what's there so that I can use it to really rebuild, right? And that was the kind of shift for me. As this person was presenting, just stop. And so I stopped, and I was really able to become aware of what even led me to this injury in the first place, which is a whole nother disillusioning kind of rabbit hole. To become aware, really, to become more aware means that I have to become more aware of my perceived failures, my errors, let's call them, my errors in behavior. And it almost looks like I'm getting worse at that point, but ultimately, a lot of the practices that I teach are practices of awareness, so that we can see where we're making mistakes, and then we can correct them.
Whoa. Okay, you just covered so much wisdom right now. I need to anchor some of it home. for myself and for all of you, right? This is amazing. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the things I just want to like, there's so many places I could just go deeper in with you in like all the different directions. But what you just shared, so you kind of just shared this theme, right? You called it a surrogate savior, and then realizing like, oh, the surrogate savior thing was not going to work. Like trying to fill this hole inside of myself from people or things outside of myself, right? Wasn't going to work. So that kind of had you shift to this inner knowing around like the celibacy path and like to go deeper into it. And in that, the realization, gosh, okay, so many things. This is my breaking it down. But in that, what you just shared, becoming aware of the errors in your behavior, that is like the fundamental reciprocal healing from the stance of the surrogate savior, right? That because if you're needing a savior, then you're obviously are automatically in victim. And so many of us, when we're feeling helpless and despair around our health, around our life situations, our challenges, there are moments of that, victim. And I'm not one to say that that's wrong. Like, I think that there's a lot, especially in a lot of like new age kind of spiritual conversations, there's a lot of pinning negativity on the victim. And I just want to like say that there's a real honest time and space to honor that archetype within us and to hold that part of us. Absolutely. And then there's also the opportunity for us to get out of that, what psychologists call the drama triangle, the victim, savior, perpetrator kind of drama triangle, and actually just take our power back and just be like, I'm choosing to heal this. I'm choosing to receive, my higher guidance, and I'm choosing to take responsibility for the things that are mine to take responsibility for. And oftentimes we only have responsibility for not responsibility in a way of guilt or punishment, but responsibility for like, hey, if I'm honest with myself, there were choices I made along the path that, with the wisdom I have now looking back, I can own that I've made some erroneous choices, and I can love myself through that. But without that step that you just brought up so powerfully, without that step, we can't actually heal thoroughly, because we're not actually reclaiming all the parts of ourselves. So thank you for bringing that up. So go ahead and please tell us more about about your journey with that.
What comes to mind is this word, like I'm thinking of spiritual athleticism or emotional athleticism. And there are so many principles of athletic training that I don't know if anybody's read books by Dan Millman. He has a few of them. The one that comes to mind is I think it's called the Total Spiritual Athlete, something like this. Anybody could look up Dan Millman and find one of his books and
Cool.
Check that out. Well, because I have a background in athletic training and martial arts, these principles can really be applied very effectively in a personal growth path, and to get somebody from, wounded to kind of, to like from wounds to boons, I guess you could call it, from being shut down to open to receive, right?
Yeah.
So just starting with a practice of awareness, that has to be installed in someone's life in order for me to really be able to work with someone personally. And I can help someone develop an awareness practice, which is great. But if you don't have, it could just look like 5 minutes of relaxing with like a piece of classical music or something per day, right? Like something to tone down the central nervous system. A lot of people, myself included, use meditative practices or just classic meditation, like sitting watching my thoughts, watching my breath, listening to sounds, using different objects around me like sound or an image as a meditation itself, because stuff is going to come up, especially, right, if you've gone to stay with your parents and haven't been around them for a while. Try using the sound of their voice as an object of meditation. That'll, you'll know right away like how you're being agitated. You'll be aware, hopefully, right? You'll develop awareness. And all of these practices, just like an athlete, let's say a gymnast needs to learn like just flexibility, mobility, and strength before they even go on to learn the technique, right? There's the foundations and that we have to learn in order to make the improvements to get to the place where we feel like we're in flow or we have this quantum shift. It's the result of almost imperceptible things that we might not even think matter, right? Really do matter over time to help us kind of get out of that hole of feeling wounded or shameful or fearful, right? Of just like meeting someone else's eyes on the street, right? As a baseline indicator of like, how do I feel safe in the world? And so having an awareness practice for me would be like the key number one piece of moving from a state of feeling like victimized or wounded to feeling empowered, because now I'm aware of how I feel, and then I can take ownership of my own emotions, and they're mine, right? And I get to honor that first before I give it to anybody else, right? That's super powerful for me to acknowledge, like, I'm afraid of this, or I've really hurt because of this thing that I experienced. And so from there, I can kind of take that and then use it myself to move on to the next step of my healing.
Could you give us an example of how you use that? So what I'm hearing is that you kind of are watching your own emotions, watching your thoughts, and then from there being able to like really just own like, okay, this is how I feel. And so what would be a next step that you would use in order to fuel and empower your healing?
I think a basic one that I would use if I was training as an athlete, or if I was interested in like CrossFit, let's say.
Okay.
I would for sure take a second and just check in with myself and say, why am I doing this, and where do I want it to get me to? And then just look around the gym, let's say, and see somebody who might look like they're moving like I want to move like. Or maybe you're you practice acro yoga or any physical endeavor. Is it golf or gymnastics or dance, right? And just is there something about how this person is performing that draws you and wants you to achieve more? Okay, great. Well, where did they start, first of all? And then from there, I can actually determine how I can work with myself to get there. Because if I just go in and try to do a power clean and squat, right, I might blow out my knee or cause back troubles, like in yoga, right? Alignment before depth. Like I have to be in alignment before I just force myself into this new flexible posture. I'm going to hurt myself. It's really like that internally. My internal posture, my internal training has to take little baby steps. You don't take the Bible or a dictionary and like flip through it, and now I know 3,000 words, or now I know the book of Job's, those papers.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
Like see through the pages, and it's so tiny, and I might be stuck on one page for a while. So for me, it was about releasing the expectation that I'm going to get this done immediately, and trust that my teachers and the teachings would help me move to the next step. And just having that foundational mindset of, okay, I'm willing to do the small stuff and start from the beginning here in order to move through this. That was huge for me. And that allowed me to literally sit in my meditations and just watch my own thoughts and feelings that would come up. And I'm a nerd, right? Like I have this journal. I don't know for everybody out there who like really doesn't like to journal, maybe they're using their phone. I strongly urge a writing practice to move the thoughts through the body and get them out onto a place where I can observe, really observe, so I'm not just stuck in the head. So meditation practice or practice of awareness, acknowledgement of where I want to go and what might I need to do to get there, and then to record and observe my thoughts about that process. That's huge, huge. Really like three foundational pieces that it's kind of like the baby step, but it will help christen the boat to set sail, right, to on the sea of healing for anybody, for me.
So great. That's so valuable and so beautifully said and shared. Thank you so much. I know I can just feel, um, yeah, everyone being able to very tangibly use that practice. So thank you for that. And this time together has been so valuable and meaningful. I'm so grateful to you, Aaron, for your time and for all the wisdom that you've shared and just for being in this conversation with me. Do you have any kind of final thoughts or inspirations words of encouragement to our listeners who are on their path of healing?
Wow, yeah, okay. Let me think about that for a minute. I feel like there's a lot of talk about guys, you know, women I see, and a lot of other men see women gathering to do healing and communal healing and sharing, right? And there seems to be a shift. However, by and large, men feel isolated, in my view. In the years speaking with thousands of guys, right? Just like joining a men's group, for example, right? Could be like there's a lot of constriction. Like, oh, men's group, there's a foofy, like all these ideas about that. So if you are a man and you're viewing this and reading this, or maybe just someone who knows a man who might feel isolated or alone, or you know there's something going on there, I would say find a brother just to reach out to. And if you are curious and afraid to admit that you might be curious about joining a men's group of some kind, or doing a personal development program within the context of working with masculinity, think about it maybe like I did. Think about it like as if you might be a secret agent or James Bond, right? Like you need this kind of secret elite training so that you can be as effective on scene no matter what is presented in front of you. That's how I was able to kind of break through my own shame and fear of speaking out, is I just did something that I knew would be uncomfortable, and that was, I went to my first men's group, and then I was asked by the facilitator, do you want to process this? Like, what the heck is this? What is he talking about? Well, yes, let's work with this. And I was able to really share like what I've been wanting to say to this other man who I felt had really hurt me, right? And just get this off my chest. And there was another brave man who was, willing to be there and stand with me and let me kind of throw all this stuff at him. Super, super powerful. So definitely, if you're feeling uncomfortable about a path forward, I think it might be Carl Jung who is saying that the treasure for you is inside of the cave you're most afraid to enter, right? So if you are afraid to go somewhere, right, and share with either a group or another practitioner, I would just encourage you to make that leap if you feel, it's going to serve you to do so. Kind of push through that upper threshold of fear, or kind of push through it gently if you must, by contacting someone or getting into a group, right, who will be supportive of you and just allow you to take that first step.
That's so awesome. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for speaking to all the men who need that, and for all of us that need to remember that we're not alone, and that there is support, and that we can come into um, support of one another and process and work through the things that we don't need to hold on to anymore. We don't need to carry that burden anymore. So thank you so much, Aaron. Is there a great way our viewers can get in touch with you and continue to learn from you or connect?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. This year is kind of a big year of change for me, where I'm launching a few new programs I'm really excited about. I'm going to be in Sri Lanka for 3 months, running men's groups and doing workshops and teaching some yoga practices and classes. So if you're in Sri Lanka, you could check out the Sri Yoga Shala. That's where I'll be for 3 months.
Awesome.
And in Rishikesh, if anybody has the opportunity to come to the International Yoga Festival, there's some amazing, powerful healers that go beyond just yoga. Like, for example, Bruce Lipton is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So come see me in person. They can reach out to me via email. While my, domains, my web domains are really heavily under construction right now, you can put my email in the show notes. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who feels that this conversation was valuable to them, wants to know more. For sure, willing to go there with anybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So you can check the show notes below this video for Aaron's contact info and website and email. And just thank you again for being here. Thank you all for listening and sending lots and lots of healing, love, and prayers and blessings all your way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia.
Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that this time spent with us was as enriching for you as it was for myself and for Aaron. So thank you for being here. Please subscribe to this channel. Click on your notifications so when new episodes come out, you get all of the health and wellness and holistic education, healing perspectives delivered straight to your inbox. And if you want more of my transformational practices and some of my step-by-step guidance like I give in the Enlightened Body System, I have a free 3-part video training series on my website. So just visit alicialyndiaz.com to go ahead and get your free training, and I look forward to seeing you there. And please do comment in below. I'd love to hear how this topic impacted you, what you can now let go of, and what you want to reclaim in terms of your own sacred healing power. So thank you for sharing. Aaron and I will both be responding to your comments, and blessings to you. Lots of love. See you soon.